Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here Tuesday, June 24th. Right now, getting into a show that I don't really like to get into because, it's not a super positive, optimistic talk. But we're looking at the Jaguars' weaknesses. And I don't think the Jaguars have a lot of glaring weaknesses in their roster, in their construction this year. I think that the current regime set out to raise the floor, and in doing so, you're looking to eliminate weaknesses. I think each weakness that we're talking about, potential weakness that we're talking about, could actually be a strength, or at least a net neutral area of the roster. And that's huge. If it hits, right? There's reasons for optimism, in my opinion, in each area of the roster that we're going to talk about today. But there's also arguments you could make that suggest, maybe they don't have the best situation. So that's what we're going to get into. These are spots where I think if the Jaguars do not have the type of season they want to, or even if they do, you could look back at the 2025 season and say, well, maybe they could have done a better job addressing that position or that area of the roster. Or maybe it's time to do that now, heading into 2026, right? So that's what we're going to do. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like. If you have not already, please subscribe and let me know in the comment section below what you think the Jaguars' weaknesses are heading into 2025. So at the top of the list for me, I do have safety. And to be fair, Eric Murray was a starter for the Houston Texans last year. Very good defense last year. He overall played very well, right? He had over 80 tackles. He did have 13 missed tackles, but safety is one of those positions where missed tackles can pile up when you're trying to attack a ball carrier from depth, and that's just a difficult play to make. Still, you would like to see the number lower, no question about it. Other than that, though, you look at his numbers across the board, and he played well, and yet he signed with the Jaguars to start for at least 2025 and probably 2026 as well. But some of the underlying numbers are really impressive over the last couple of years, and have been fairly impressive when you look at the years that he's played starting snaps in this league. You have versatility, right? He lined up on the line of scrimmage a lot, as an overhang safety. He lined up in the box a lot. He lined up in the slot. He lined up as the free safeties. Like, he can move around the field and do a lot of different things for you. That's big. You also look at the fact that he had 8 pass breakups and 2 interceptions last year. That's really good. He did give up 4 touchdown passes. I think some of that just has to do with the fact that he is 31 years old and maybe isn't the best free safety in terms of being able to cover the deep parts of the field with great haste at this point in his career. I think that's fair to say. But he has versatility. He's smart. He's physical. I think he plays the right way in terms of mentally and bringing it. I think he's going to play more as that closer to the line of scrimmage safety for the Jaguars. But I think if you look at his career in totality, the fact that he is almost 32 years old, the fact that for most of his career he's been either a role player or a backup, and yeah, it's possible that he, along with whoever else is starting at safety, make up one of the weaker groups on the roster. It's also possible that if he plays the way he played last year, he could be part of a safety group that helps the team win games. But again, we're looking at potential possibilities for the Jaguars to not play very well at certain spots. I think a veteran journeyman, it's possible that he doesn't play very well. it's also possible that whoever starts next to him does not play very well, because you've got Caleb Bransaw, who's converting from, he played outside corner, then he played nickel, and now he's converting from corner to safety. Looked pretty darn good doing it at the Senior Bowl. Really good tackler. Amazing athlete at the safety position. But he's young and he's making a transition to a new position. So that can be difficult. If it's not him, it's probably Andrew Wingard or Darnell Savage. We've seen both of them on the field quite a bit. For every good play you see, there's plenty of valleys in play as well. Not great play. That's just kind of the way it is. So I think that safety could be the Jaguars' biggest weakness. I also think that there's plenty of room for optimism. Again, Eric Murray did play well last year. He does kind of play the way the Jaguars want guys to play through the whistle, play hard, play smart, play fast. And then Caleb Bransaw has unbelievable upside. Great tackler. He showed ball skills in the Senior Bowl at safety. Unbelievable athlete. He absolutely plays the game the way you want him to play, with his hair on fire, and will challenge, anybody in his way. So yeah, there's reason for optimism, but there's reason for pessimism as well for 2025. I think another kind of spine of the defense, I'm a little bit worried about linebackers not named Foye Oluokun. And I've been as high on Devin Lloyd as anybody since before he was drafted. But Devin Lloyd simply has made too many mistakes. Makes a lot of great plays as well, but too many mistakes to this point in his career. Can coaching, can alignment, can usage, and can his own personal development limit some of those mistakes, particularly in coverage? Can he eliminate, can this group of coaches and Devin Lloyd himself improving mentally, physically, taking off some weight from last year, get to a point where in a contract year, he can play at his peak? Because if he can, there's no reason to worry about the linebackers. Foye Oluokun's been one of the most consistent linebackers in the game for the last handful of years. And Devin Lloyd, should he hit his ceiling, can be a high-impact, positive player. We've seen the floor for Devin Lloyd far too often to this point in his career. Again, you look back at maybe what doesn't work out in 2025. That's possible that linebacker doesn't work out outside of Foye. You do have Chad Muma still on the roster, who don't know if he's going to make it. Obviously, Ventrell Miller, who is tough as nails, plays the game the right way, not the greatest athlete. You drafted Jack Kaiser. Is he going to be ready to step in and play right away? I don't think so. I think it's going to be Foye and Devin, and you hope Devin can eliminate the mental mistakes. I think center. I've talked about the interior offensive line a lot. I think between Patrick McCary, Ezra Cleveland, and Wyatt Milam, the Jaguars have a good enough trio at guard that they can definitely get it figured out to where they're playing pretty good football. And Robert Hainsey, it's possible that, in this Liam Cohen offense, he plays well. It is very possible. In his only start last year, Robert Hainsey did a really good job. Really good job. He played against the New Orleans Saints, I think week 6, let's pull it up here. Week 6 at New Orleans. Had a great game. Didn't allow pressure. Got pushed in the run game. He is an explosive linear athlete. He plays with strength. He drives guys off the ball. But, in 2023, statistically, he had a really, really poor season. 33 pressures allowed, and that's his last season as a starter. That's why the Bucs chose to replace him with a first-round pick. 33 pressures allowed, which is a lot on the interior, 5 sacks, 9 penalties, a lot on the interior. He's 26 years old, about to be 27. He does have experience in this offense. He did play well in his single start last year in this offense. He also did have to play 11 snaps in Week 17 against the Panthers. Did well in those 11 snaps with an incredibly small sample size. Maybe Liam Cohen knows how to best utilize Robert Hainsey and his skill set. And I think in most games against most average opponents, Robert Hainsey will be good enough in conjunction with the rest of the interior offensive line for the Jaguars to function offensively. But there are some concerning matchups. Week 1 could be a concerning matchup for Robert Hainsey when you talk about Derek Brown. Some of the other guys they have on the interior there. I think you look at the Chiefs. I mean, I'd be licking my chops if I was Chris Jones. They also went out and drafted Omar Norman-Lott to play on the interior alongside Chris Jones. Seattle has some incredible interior defensive linemen. The Rams, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk. The Raiders have Christian Wilkins on the interior. The Cardinals have added some impressive talent on the interior lately as well, including Walter Nolan, who is a freak show. The Titans have maybe one of the best interiors in the league with Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat. The Colts have D-Buck, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart. The New York Jets have Quinnen Williams. You're starting to see my point. A lot of the Jaguars' opponents have really good interior defensive lines. And if Robert Hainsey plays more like he did in 2023 than he did in 2024, the Bucs were still a playoff team in 2023. And look, he won the Super Bowl as their starting center in 2022. But I think it's possible that you look back and you say maybe they could have done a little bit more at center. It's also possible, looking at both sides of the fence here, that if he plays like he did in his limited snaps last year and like he did in 2022, that the Jaguars have zero problems. Right? So, and that's at center. I think injuries have been a weakness of the Jaguars for the last 2 years, primarily at the quarterback position. I don't think anything that Trevor Lawrence has dealt with is chronic. I don't think it's something where like these specific injuries are going to continue popping up for Trevor Lawrence. But we've talked about it. Staying out of harm's way for Trevor Lawrence has been really important. And then you just look at, I don't think you look at anybody currently on the roster as like super injury prone. But injuries in general have crept up on the Jaguars and really negatively affected them each of the last 2 years. Now, different coaching staff in place, different front office, and different strength and conditioning staff. They brought over the guys from Buffalo. Hopefully that all helps. And hopefully, they did move on from some of the guys that have been injury prone. And then the final potential weakness for me here is youth. Youth at head coach. Youth at offensive coordinator. Youth across the board in the coaching staff. Youth in the front office. An EVP who's never done it before. You're relying on a second-year receiver and a rookie to guide this offense, to be the engines of this offense. So there's a lot of areas where they're betting on youth. And I honestly think that those are good bets. Each one of them. But there's times where youth can can bite back a little bit, and you have to take your lumps as a young head coach, a young offensive coordinator, a first-time defensive coordinator, a player who's trying to play on both sides of the ball as a rookie, a receiver who is going into his second year and teams kind of have a little bit better idea what to expect from him. Again, I actually don't think that youth will be an issue. I don't think it will be a weakness, but I think you could argue that it could be. The rest of these areas of concern, I think, are much more likely to be an issue for the Jaguars. I think if they're okay, if they're net neutral at safety, at center, at linebacker not named Foye Oluokun, and injuries don't completely creep up on them, I think they're going to have a really good year. But those are some big ifs. I do think that they're set up really well at most of the key positions in the league. I think they're set up at corner, wide receiver, quarterback, edge. As much as people want to worry about the tackle situation, offensive tackle, I feel good about it personally. So that's where I'm at. Would love to know what y'all think in the comment section below. And if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.